Hi.
How's your sound, Rhonda? Rhonda, you're on mute. I'm asking you to unmute.
I got it. I think I got it. Can you hear me, Kris?
I can. We can.
Woo! Look at you, Rhonda! You look so nuts!
For everybody out there, Miss Rhonda Harper wearing lipstick. Oh my goodness.
You know, sometimes I clean up kind of nice.
You clean up.
You clean up well.
Fine. You clean up super fine. What are you talking about? So there's dozens of people on already, but we're going to give it another minute before we start. Okay. So I think they can see us. Hi, everybody. How you ladies feeling?
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Oh, Rhonda, you're getting love on the chat. Remember, everybody who's on, chat away, chat away, chat away. Keep the Q&A section at the bottom for your questions. It's 11 o'clock. How do you ladies feel? You ready to start this off?
You. Yeah.
So I just did the opening. I apologize. People are like, really, Kris, we have to see you again. But these extraordinary, excellent, beautiful human beings asked me to moderate. I am going to just get out of the way of their magic though. So we're going to give them lots of time to chit chat and an opportunity to get to know both of you a little bit better. It is 11 o'clock, so we're starting. Again, chat away. Please ask questions in the Q&A. Rhonda and Aviwe are spontaneous and lovely, and they're up for being challenged. Wait, did I tell you girls I was going to say that? We're going to challenge you when we can. Rhonda's cutting in and out. There you are, Rhonda. So we're going to get to know you two fabulous women of excellence, as I keep referring to you as, a bit more through this session. But very quickly, Aviwe Funani is program manager, activist, and leader with Waves for Change in South Africa. And Rhonda Harper, who needs very little introduction, founder, writer, change maker with style, of Black Girls Surf. Thank you both for being here, and honestly, to open up this inaugural virtual symposium, it's so powerful and meaningful to everybody who's tuning in. I cannot say thank you enough on behalf of the board. Rhonda and Aviwe, thank you so much. So we're going to get started because I have talked enough. Aviwe, tell us how your work through surf therapy brings healing to yourself and certainly to your participants, or we refer to them as your athletes.
Thanks, Kris. Firstly, thank you for having me, and hello to the ISTO community. It's a great pleasure and an honor to be here today. So to answer your question, firstly, I'm the program manager for Waves for Change. And as many of you know, Waves for Change uses surf therapy as a way to help young people cope in terms of their mental health. And so that first question itself, in terms of healing for myself and also the participants that we work with at Waves for Change, the activities that we have are built to help young people in terms of moving from negative mental health part of the spectrum to a positive mental health spectrum. So for all of us to know, all of us have a mental health. So your mental health can either be positive or negative, and based on your exposure to different life experiences, that is highly affected in terms of your mental well-being. So what we do at Waves for Change, we help these young people find activities and tools to help them move their mental well-being into a state of positivity or positive mental health. So we give them coping skills. We give them tools to help them self-regulate and self-soothe. We give them tools to help them make positive decisions and life choices, and also to build positive relationships with elders and also younger people and their peers. So there's quite a lot of work that we do in terms of not just saying stay in one place of your mental health, or that there's something wrong with you and that's just where you will be, but we actually empower young people to use these tools that we give them in terms of living everyday lives with a sense of being able to work towards a sense of a positive mental health.
Love that. I really love that. I have a question for you, but well, I mean, very quickly. So these tools that you use for your participants, obviously you get them in the ocean, you surf with them, but are there more tools that you use on the beach?
Yes. So a lot of our program is based on mindfulness. We do quite a lot of meditation, a lot of activities that might seem like play therapy. So where young people play on the beach, but they're also learning skills on how to make friends, how to communicate, how to get in touch with their own feelings, how to ground themselves, how to calm themselves down, self-regulate and self-soothe so that they think before they act. And so many of these tools are things like what we've posted on our website, what we call the power hand, or the Take 5 power hand, where the young people trace the outer parts of their finger, get to the top, they think of a strength, and then as they exhale and trace the outer part of their finger, it's just to get them to get used to acknowledging the positivity that's within them, but also grounding themselves in terms of breathing in and out, letting go of the stresses of life and getting in touch with their inner beings and being able to just self-soothe and calm themselves. Because many of the young people that we work with are children that are exposed to quite a lot of volatility, and using the tools that we give them, not just when they go into the ocean, but when they're on the beach, it helps them when they go back into their communities, that they can just be reminded, if something is happening in the community, I can take a moment out, I can breathe, I can calm myself down, I can remember my own strengths and think of something positive in this moment. And then from that space, I'm able to cope and carry on with life.
Oh, I love that. ISTO has 3 pillars that we're built on, and sharing is by far one of the most important, that has been the most valuable, and Waves for Change has shared their power hand with so many of us. If you're looking for there's a video I know Waves for Change has made, but we're happy to share that awesome tool with everybody. So Miss Rhonda, your mission, it didn't start with the death of George Floyd, but rather you've spent an entire lifetime fighting for inclusion and fighting for equality. So can you tell us how you use the ocean and surfing as a space for racial and gender restoration?
I think I would have to, even though we've started out with, now we have the George Floyd paddle outs. I think before this, I was going into the inner cities and speaking with women that were in battered women's shelters, or there were foster girls that were young, teenage foster girls that were very young, bringing them to the beach and just trying to get them to understand who they are as Black women coming into the 21st century with all of these obstacles against them, and how to make them feel that they have a place and a space for them, right? If you don't see somebody, my motto is, if you can't see it, you can't be it. And a lot of people want to be at the beach. A lot of people want to touch the water. I'm one of those water people. I have to be. I'm literally living on the water. I need to be here. But I use this as a tool for healing our communities. I use this for a tool, even for young boys, as well as just the Black girls, but the Black boys as well, who have, just of the same amount, but different, right? So the Black male has to worry about whether or not he's going to get shot down in the street, and the Black woman is worrying about whether she's going to be ignored and not empowered in her life. So I use the ocean to do both of those. First of all, you see me surfing, so you understand that there's a Black woman who is surfing. Okay, I'm not 18, 15, I'm 52 and I'm doing it. So it's okay for you to do it. Break out of those norms. Create your own cultures within this surf community. It doesn't have to be this monolith. It can be so many things culturally. You can put Juneteenth. They do Pan Afro days at the beach now in Los Angeles. People are bringing their own cultures to the surf community, and now they're starting to reclaim where their origins are, right? I used to always be the person who gave acknowledgement to Hawaii, but now I have to give the acknowledgement to Ghana, which is why you see me in African print. I'm proud that, there are footprints here beyond what we've been told in history. And so you use history and facts to counter the narrative that's already been given in surfing. And then we all can move along, equally and unified. The paddle outs were just one step. I've been doing this ever since 2005, just from my nephew getting in trouble for skateboarding on the sidewalk. They kept telling him to stop and he wouldn't do it because it was safer and he didn't have a helmet. So he would ride on the sidewalks of Burbank, and the police would pull him over at like 10, 11 years old. So already he's building up the being pulled over by cops. He's already feeling like he's in danger. So what do? I picked up a surfboard and took him and his friends to the beach. And then we started Inkwell Surf and Skate for the boys. So you definitely putting your body, yourself, taking away from what you feel inside is not necessarily the end thing for you, and bringing somebody into this culture, into this community, and showing them that there's something outside of whatever circumstance they might be in.
I love that. We're going to talk a lot about that, but modeling is so important. I said this to you too the other day. I wish I had seen Hawaiian Filipino powerful women in positions to help lead me. And you're right, I couldn't see it. So I didn't know that I could be it. And I love that takeaway. Can you very briefly tell us about the method to your madness in planning a global paddle out, Miss Harper? Oh, shock. Oh, there you are.
So literally sitting in this spot where I am right now, and I was sitting here where I am now, and I was looking out the window, and I was trying to reflect. The sun was setting, and I said to myself, why are we continuously getting killed and nobody cares within the surf industry? Because I was looking at Facebook and social media, and my friends were saying one thing, my friends in the surf community were saying one thing, and my Black friends were saying another thing. And so I said to myself, we got to do something. And just so happened that evening, somebody sent me a flyer for George Floyd paddle out in Santa Monica. And I said to them, I need to talk to the organizers, because I could already see it was a white male that was, going to do this paddle out. And I wanted to talk to the organizers to see if this thing was what the intention was, what they expected the outcome to be. Where were we in this George Floyd thing? Is this just like for show? And when I talked to him, he said, especially because I saw on the flyer, it said Tower 20. And Tower 20 is very specific. Tower 20 is Inkwell Beach in Santa Monica, California. So when you say you're going to hold a paddle out there for a man that's been shot and killed, or just been killed, and Breonna Taylor being, killed in her own home, then we're going to have to find out what the intention is. So I sat in this bedroom window. I called all my, the 5 friends that we started out with. And I said, listen, these people want us to be involved with this. Let's get in and help organize them. So I helped them organize that very first one. And the momentum and the love, the turnout, I said to the organizer, I said, I'm going to, at that time I had 7,000 people on my IG. And I said, I know how my people are because they love Black Girl Surf. I said, are you going to be prepared when I put this flyer on Black Girl Surf for the outcome, what happens afterwards? And he said, yes. And I didn't expect it. He didn't expect it, but hundreds of people showed up to that particular paddle out in Santa Monica, the very first one. So when that one went off, we were like, okay, how can I include? And this is what I said, because now I'm taking over. He's like, you got it. You know what you're doing. Let, go with it. And I said, okay, let me give this some real context. And then I put the surf industry, grab the surf industry and all of its imbalance socially, right? And put that together and say, look, this Black man died. I'm watching people talking about whales and there's a grown man dead in the streets. Let's mash this together and talk openly about what's going on. Because if you can have empathy for a whale, then you can have empathy for a man that's been killed. Like, I never understood that disconnect. And so that was my next move. So adding in Breonna Taylor, adding in Ahmaud Arbery, adding in Andrew Washington. Andrew Washington's mother, when I talked to her, and I sent her a photo because we had the paddle out here in Senegal, was right outside my house. I sent her the photo of one of my girls holding her son's sign, because all the kids had signs of each of the people that were murdered. And she just cried and she said, that's my daughter forever. Like that's her connection now. So she really, I think she did a TV article or TV spot, and she talked about Black Girl Surf adding her son in, who was killed, in Vallejo years ago. I mean, we were adding in as many, and we said, when I first organized it, I called my assistant, the poor girl. She had just started with Black Girl Surf, and she was actually supposed to be a fitness instructor, and she ended up being a coordinator for the Santa Monica paddle out. And that paddle out started pretty much everything, because we had it simultaneously in Pacifica, Monterey, Santa Monica, Senegal, and Bondi. And that's where we thought, when we put the flyer up, that's what we said. Those 5 places, we were fine with that. And the next morning, I get 200 emails saying, I want to do it here in Australia. Like 3 or 4 different, I didn't even realize how big Australia was, that so many came in. And I didn't realize that there were 3 time zones in New Zealand. Like there were things that I just did not know that I found out. And knowing and understanding the surf community for who it says, and outside of that business, we know that people genuinely have a love for people and the ocean. They go together. They just didn't know how to connect it. This was the only way that I knew how to connect the two of them and just see on how this thing was going to come out. I wake up the next morning and Indonesia on the 5th had already had theirs. So even before I had my cup of coffee, I was already crying, because I realized that people across the world understood what I was trying to say. And they were going to get on their boards and they were going to stand with us in this moment in time and in history that won't be able to be repeated again. Only time that we had to really make a stand. So that's how you plan it. I never thought it would be as big, but I'm humbled and I'm appreciative of every single person who picked up a flower or brought their mother or tried to explain. I mean, this has opened up so many doors for so many people, not just as dealing with each other as human beings, but dealing with the surf industry itself, because now you have to recognize you have thousands of people around the world who are saying Black Lives Matter or these people matter. And what are we going to do as a company, or what are we going to do as a business to rectify the situation? And they responded. I mean, it's just been, for me, it's been amazing. I mean, I don't think anything else in my life has humbled me more than the paddle outs.
Well done. There are dozens and dozens of people on this call right now who participated. And I know you couldn't be at all of them, but between the South Bay of Los Angeles and north of Los Angeles and beyond, California, we were representing and we were there for you. So many of these awesome attendees that I'm aware of. We held one here in Manhattan Beach.
I remember.
It's action, like the fact that you felt something and then you put it to action, and these are just life lessons for everything. Thank you for managing a global paddle out. That was pretty epic, Rhonda. Aviwe, sweetheart, what positive effect? Now I know in South Africa they couldn't do the paddle out because everything was shut down in June and July, which was unfortunate, because I know you would have gotten a whole bunch of support down there. But what positive effects, Aviwe, of your work contribute to community social restoration? Because I know that for you personally, this is a hot topic. You are, if you don't follow this girl on Instagram, she will tell you how she feels in the moment at any moment. Share with us a little bit about social restoration.
So just like what Rhonda spoke about in terms of a lot of the racial inequalities that already exist in the world, but I think that with lockdown and with so many different things coming up, we feel like, or I feel like a lot has come to the surface. And yeah, I think there's quite an opportunity for us as in the surf therapy community to do quite a lot in terms of driving that change. And just to answer your question around social restoration with Waves for Change, first of all, we are working with some of the most at risk, I don't want to say at risk, but most volatile communities in the South African coastline. And so many of the children that we work with grow up in communities that already, they are told that there is no hope for the future. If something's gonna happen, that is great. It's not going to happen to you, so don't dream, don't aspire too much. And the only way to cope is turning to maybe gangs, turning to violence, turning to substance abuse. And that's where we as Waves for Change come in, because as I spoke about before, a lot of what we do is about bringing children back to a state of tapping into their inner strengths and what they already have. Because I think what we do at Waves for Change, we're not giving any of our participants or any of our staff or any of our coaches something that is outside of themselves. It's just a matter of us giving the tools and saying, tap into what you already have inside of you and go back into your community and create a ripple effect in terms of what it is to be mindful, what it is to think before you act, what it is to respect women, what it is to be mindful of gender and diversity and so many things that there've been no conversations. And the interesting thing about Waves for Change is that the Waves for Change we see today was born out of conversation. So it was not just about the surfing that brought the children to the ocean. It was conversation and listening. And in many of the communities that the children come from, conversation is something that for many years has been broken down. You have a group of people who feel like they've been talking and there's been no one listening to them, and therefore the only way is to retaliate or react negatively. And so when you teach young people from a very small age that, number one, there are people in this world willing to listen, and secondly, you yourself can listen to others, you can be empathetic, you can show grace to other people that feel like, okay, there's no one in the world who cares about them, there's no one in the world that is invested in them. And so, can you hear me? Okay, sorry. So in terms of social restoration, I think that is one of the first key elements of what we do at Waves for Change, is creating a culture of being listened to, being heard, of empathy, of walking in someone else's shoes and being able to say, okay, you know what, that mantra that says namaste, I recognize the greatness in you as you see in me. So I think if we bring that back into society, that in itself, all the things around violence, gangsterism, rape, the abuse culture, I think it all goes back to, okay, are you able to recognize and empathize with others? And so I think what we do at Waves for Change has a lot to do with bringing that back to young people. But also some of the other things that we have done is around helping young people be able to build positive relationships. Now, in the country that we live in, And again, with the communities that we work in, many of the young people that we work with are so accustomed to negative relationships, especially with their peers, with adults. And if you teach young people that, again, conversation, you can be heard. Every old person or grown or elder person is not only looking at you to blame you for something that's going wrong, to look at you and just, if you make a mistake and not be able to walk the journey with you of growth. And that's what we do. That's what we do at Ways for Change. And also in terms of we did a heart rate variability study last year with the University of New School, where we were able to measure how do young people in our program respond to being exposed to shock or being exposed to traumatic events. How do they respond in those moments? And we found that with many of the young people that we work with after exposure to our program, they're actually able to calm themselves down. They're able to self-soothe. They're able, in terms of fight or flight, they're able to stay calm. They're able to reason and make positive decisions, which I think has a ripple effect in terms of when you take those young people back into their communities, into the schooling environments where there's so much going on and they can easily respond in a negative manner, but they can actually calm themselves down and respond positively. And I think we have not even begun to scratch the surface about the impact of our work on the communities. These are just a few of the examples of what we're doing actually looks like in terms of the communities. I think there's so much more that we as Waves for Change will only untap as the years come by, but that is just a part of the foundation of what we're doing and what it looks like when it manifests in the young people putting what we teach them at the beach into practice back home.
Oof, I love that. I'll tell you, I wish I had these lessons when I was younger. You know what I did negatively? I just got louder because we want to be seen, heard, and valued, right? Like we want to be seen, heard, and valued. So my negative response to not being seen, heard, and valued was to be very loud. And I know all the attendees out there who know me are laughing because I am loud. I love that too. I say that very often. If you're looking for happiness outside of yourself, it's going to be a long journey, a lifelong journey of looking to find happiness. So I love all of that. That was incredible. I think priorities are necessary to change the culture, but sadly, with good intentions, we don't always have implementation. Going back to Rhonda's paddle out, and the status quo remains. So, Rhonda, what more can be done in surfing to prioritize leadership from BIPOC and especially women?
So women have to start walking into doors. Like, just turn the knob. It's not that hard. You just turn it and you just walk through. And if you can just do that step, that's step number one, because on the other side, you're going to be able to tell that guy sitting behind the desk that enough is enough. I walked straight into the WSL. I didn't have a problem. I needed to talk to you because I'm in competitive surfing and there's so many levels of disappointment for my kids, which is the reason why we added surf therapy into our program, because on our level, we're competing, right? And they are from challenged backgrounds, and there's, but they want to compete, and they see the magazines. They want to be Kelly Slater. They want to be, Gabriel Medina. I mean, and I'm in Senegal right now. This is like a surf village. Everybody's surfing, even when you're 1 year old, and they want to do that, right? And there's a certain mindset in the offices that this is the way surfing should be. And unless women prioritize what they want in surfing, that's the first thing. Because if you don't know, you're just saying, oh, I want women to be, in the top, whatever, marketing and financial, and you have to know what you want. I want it better for my competitive surfers. I wanted to see how'd you go to WSL and go to the Olympics. That was my priority. I want to see kids be able to progress in this sport. So the only way to get there is to go and sit and look at them and say, I need. And then what can they say once you make that meeting and you go in there and you lay it out for them? And the thing that kills me is with these surf companies is a lot of them don't think that people of color know vernacular for surfing. We don't know anything. We don't know about breaks. We don't know about boards. We don't know about any of that stuff. So sometimes they just ramble off at stuff they think they want us or what they think we want to hear. And that's not what we want. I'm very clear when I walk in here. I know the pathway to get to where we have to go. And that one is shattering that image that you guys have upheld for more than 50 years about what a surfer actually looks like. And until you break that chain, until you unleash that mentality and that visual, you will never be able to, it doesn't matter what they prioritize. Until they break that cycle, it will never ever change. And so what do I say to people, putting people in? Go find out how to judge a heat. Go find out how to run a camera. Go find out how to be a beach marshal. There are so many jobs you can get within the industry. And you go and you tell them, hey, you don't even care. You don't even have to be a black female. You just have to go and just say, hey, this is what I want to do. I was down talking to Tash Matasi when I was in South Africa. It was the best conversation I had because it was a female telling me, Rhonda, I'm going to come and I'm going to give the surf instructor courses, give the certifications that they need so that you girls can move. Thank you. That's all we asked for. I didn't even have to ask her. She was like, okay, just here. You know what I mean? But until you put yourself in a situation where people can come to you and be approachable, because I'm one of the most approachable people in the world. You can always come and talk to me about anything. You can call me in the middle of the night, ask me how to get the fin out. I'm going to help you. I'm not that type of person. But until we start prioritizing what we want as women in this industry, we're never going to get anywhere, because the stereotype is, we don't know anyone and we're flaky and this and that. No, I'm not flaky at all. I'm going to tell you what I want, and then I'm going to ask you, when are you going to get it? When is it going to happen? Like, what day? I mean, I've even called the WSL since I've been back from South Africa. Like, what are we doing? Like, you have to stay on them. There is no job that anybody at the WSL can do that's a man that a woman cannot do, that a woman can't do. There's not one. You want to hold a cord, hold a cord. You want to do a camera, do a camera. You want to judge a heat? I'm a judge. I'm a certified judge with the ISA. Hire us. I've been on the list for the ISA for more than 6 years, and I have not been called once to judge a contest. And they have to, on the other side, say, okay, well, if we're really trying to diversify and we really are trying to get the sponsors that we need to have a diversified playing field, then you're going to have to start hiring some people that look like me. You're going to have to start hiring some people who look like little Filipino girl or the little, Ethiopian girl, wherever she's from. You have to stop thinking that this is what it is. It's not. That's not it, because we've been doing it all over the place for centuries. So you can't. I'm in Angora. They filmed Endless Summer in Angora. Right outside my window is the hotel where, literally, if I open my window right now, you can smell the breeze from coming off that hotel. Right here in this window behind me is Angora Right. That's where they surfed. Okay, that was in 1960, whatever. Okay, well, if you came here and you thought that people weren't surfing here and you discovered it, you were very wrong. These people surf. These babies are surfing. There's 1-year-olds downstairs surfing earlier. You know what I mean? They surf. So you can't say this is the image of surfing. The only reason why you're saying that is because you wanted to colonize it. And in that, you colonized the beaches as well. So now you don't have access for the little kid that's in Watts to come and enjoy the ocean, because they're scared they're going to get harassed. Chased out of the water. They don't look like you. So there's something else that's going to happen to them and they feel threatened. No, you want to prioritize women leadership? Women, don't be scared. I'm telling you now, I did it. I walked right through that door. I was not kidding. I sat right there at that table, and I'm telling you, I probably had this on when I went there, but I sat there just like this. So what are we going to do? And that's it. And I had a list, and then went down the list. Okay, Rhonda, this is this and this. And they started putting it into motion. Now we have COVID, which will stop anything. Like I got stuck in Senegal because I was working with the WSL on Hadji's film. So I had to come over here and reprioritize even what I was doing with the surf industry. And then I run into another mess. Over here, you run into that system of patriarchy that will hold anybody down. I'm surprised trees grow. They will hold everything down. And what they're doing is they're emulating the guys from the front office that they feel is this superior being because they have some title in surfing. Those are all self-created titles. Those titles, no king came up with these titles. They're not Sir Slater. They're just Kelly. You know what I mean? So you can't keep saying that this is the road we're going to go on. It has to change at some point. And people, especially women, you have to use your voice on a daily basis. I am sitting here fighting patriarchy every single day. I was fighting it back home, but here in Senegal, it's been way worse. And I mean, it affects the kids. It affects Haju. It affects the environment. It's affecting my business. It's affecting the surf school. I mean, it just, when you have people who try to emulate an oppressive person or figure, then they are going to start doing it to their own people. And that is what's happening here. They have started to oppress the women here that are trying to move the pendulum. What I did when I came up here, I'm sorry, I got stuck in Senegal. It wasn't my fault. That was COVID. But I did in 6 months what somebody couldn't do in 20 years. And that was because he was too scared to walk through the door. They were too scared to walk through the door. And I did. And that's intimidating. See, when I speak, people get intimidated. Don't get intimidated. I'm just telling you the truth. The way that I'm telling you. I mean, you feel some type of way, or are you in your feelings? That's not my problem. But I'm trying to tell you the truth and how this thing works. You have to fix the systems. If you don't fix the systems, then you're just running your mouth. And there's no need to have a DEI if you're not going to sit there and go through the bullet point. Don't put up a sign saying this is what we're going, this is our new value, and then don't continue on through it. I don't care if it's COVID or not. You can do it. You know what I mean? You can, those photos, those pictures, that video, this person you put on a pedestal, all of that can change. Social media is a wonderful thing. Paddle outs, I had 7,000. Now I have 34,000. Don't tell me social media is not powerful. It absolutely is. People are like, Rhonda, why are you always on social media? But now I'm sponsored. Now I'm in a collab. I'm not even sponsored. I'm in a collaboration because I spoke up. If you don't speak up, you know, my dad said, "Closed mouths don't get fed." That's I'm gonna give y'all a black quote. That's just a black quote in our community. Closed mouth don't get fed. If you don't open your mouth and say something, you're not gonna receive. So you have to open your mouth and say something. Don't feel like this guy's got something over you. What does he have over you? Education. That's not gonna get the yes or the no. The plan and the program and how you're going to benefit that company. That's all they care about is the bottom line. They really don't care who it is. If you open your mouth and you say something, but if we don't say something, then we keep saying, oh, we're not getting paid equally. Oh, this is not right. Oh, we didn't. No, they spoke up. They went straight to the WSL. And even though it only benefited a certain amount of women, it didn't go all the way across the board. At least it started and gave me the inspiration, like, okay, well, you were only talking about 17 women, and those were 17 white women on the tour. Oh, and then the big wave tour. But what about the QS? The QS, you have to work 3 times as hard to get the points to get on the CT so that you can really do and say, have a place in professional surfing. Otherwise, you're just spinning your wheels. So on that note, we still have work to do until they even it all the way across the board, even in the back office. And I'll ask you in a minute, how many people in your back office? As a matter of fact, I've asked the diversity people, how many Black friends do you have? How many Mexican friends? Because if I'm your only Black friend, we can't be friends. And that's a fact because you won't understand. I'm in negotiations with 4 different brands, and one of the brands calls me colored and straight up said, I am, we're all blonde haired, privileged white girls. We don't know what you color girls are doing. Well, I already know you're out of touch because you called me colored. Black people ain't been colored since I wasn't even born. But I know we were colored at one point because I saw the signs in the black and white photos, but we haven't been colored since. And so for me, I already knew that you were so far out. There was so much teaching that had to be in between the two of us that it wasn't worth it. I needed to find a brand that can foundationally support my ideas and where I see surfing in 5 or 10 years, right? I see a contest where it's, not only multidimensional, it has free surfing. I see that. I see Africans and Asians, everybody, Indians, now Sri Lanka then came up. I mean, so many people have come since the inception of Black Girl Surf. And it's one of the most beautiful things for somebody to start a company because she was out of work because she hurt her hand. This is the biggest compliment you could give somebody, is to pass this on to the next generation of whatever BIPOC person there's out there. So I'm not mad at any of these new groups that come out. People ask me if I'm jealous of something. No, because you're here. And that's all I asked for. When I started this is all I asked for.
Yes.
That's all I said, is just do this. If we can just communicate and build, because you have to build. You're talking about unity. I saw a sign where they had the paddle, the boards, and they put it in the paddle out, was like unity. And then there's no unity. Where was the connect? So there was a lot of stuff done during that Black Lives Matter paddle out thing that didn't manufacture anything. Nothing productive came from it, but pictures and photos and videos and all of this other stuff. And then you go back to your regular life and you act like you was acting before. I mean, how are we as people supposed to believe that you're going to prioritize my needs if you can't even prioritize your own? I mean, it's across the board. So, I mean, that was a long-winded answer, but that's basically, that's it in a nutshell.
No, honestly, that was awesome. And actually, you answered a couple of the questions already. So we're fine on time. We have like another 10 minutes. I love that, because you're right. The demonstrations and Black Lives Matter, it certainly created awareness, but without action, it's just a state of being. And a state of being never produces meaningful change. Girl, be in the room where it happens. I want to be in your room wherever anything you're doing happens. Thank you for that. I love that. Gosh, here's a question. Is there a nirvana position of a culture of the ocean, so a culture of this, that everyone connects with regardless of our differences? And if so, what's this position look like? That's to both of you.
It looked like every paddle out that had people that were genuine, and I could see it. That's what it looked like. That's what the nirvana. That's what I saw. That's what had me crying first thing in the morning even before my paddle out that happened. So I mean, to know that there were people out there that never met you before, but they heard what you said, and they know your heart, and they can visualize themselves in this, what you call a nirvana state. That paddle out it was peaceful. I mean, all of our paddle outs, the one that was done here in Senegal was done in Wolof. I mean, I didn't understand it, but it was a beautiful ceremony, because I wanted everybody to do this organically the way they felt given tribute to. I didn't want to say, oh, here's A point, B, and then some bullet points, because that's not genuine. So when I saw the indigenous people, the Aboriginals from Australia, and they joined and they did the opening ceremony down there, I was so moved. Then I seen Native Americans opening up another one. And it was just like Indonesia, everybody, even Hawaii. I mean, Hawaii, there was one, and this was my favorite paddle out of all. There was a little girl named Grace in the UK, and they were under COVID, and she went and held her paddle out for Black Lives Matter. That was the most that you had
cutting out
a little with her board. That's when
Wait, Rhonda, say that again. No, say that again about your little girl in the UK.
About little Gracie. So a little girl in the UK named Grace. She wanted to participate, and it was COVID time, and I think somebody was doing it digitally, and she was a little mixed girl from the UK, and she went out with her surfboard and her flowers, and she held her own little paddle out, and and they sent me the photo. Her mom sent it from a distance because she wanted the little girl to have her space and her place, and she did it from a distance, and it was the cutest and most moving thing I'd ever seen, because then I knew that I had touched the next generation. It resonated, right? And so we can only, as adults, seeing that photograph, we can only as adults move forward in a positive manner, knowing that the generation coming up is watching us the way they're watching us. I can't do anything. My girls are constantly here. I just had one 13 years old. She's been here all day, sleep on my couch. They're watching every single thing that you do. And so I'm very mindful of how I move about, like I said, on the airplane. That's how I move about the cabin, real smooth, because I don't ever want to see one of my girls end up the way I was before I started surfing, which was, wasn't the most beautiful thing ever, but I got here. So, I mean, this has been, like I said, this journey has been for me an eye-opening thing. It's been, and going to Waves for Change, I gotta say, I gotta give a plug out for everybody. Like that was so amazing for me. And I want to just say this because at first I was very apprehensive. I really had some, some doubt about how it was going to play out and how this will work into what I'm trying to do. And is this one voice going to be what I'm going to hear over and over again? And they allowed me the freedom to have a safe space to be able to say things the way I'm saying them right now, and to be able to come back and put my program in a manner that where we needed. We absolutely needed some cushions, and it gave us some tools. Like I was doing a take 5. I just want to give a shout out to Ash and them. I did a take 5 right before I came on here. So that was for myself and getting myself ready for this, because I had major anxiety all day. And so yeah, Waves for Change just totally changed how we're going to structure the next program and integrate surf therapy into our program, because it's a much needed tool. All the tools that I learned down there, those are things that I absolutely needed to include in our program to keep our kids on a positive and empowered playing field. Like, I don't want my girls to feel like they aren't worthy. They're not, being heard, listen to them and understand what they're saying and move in the positive way in the rest of their lives. And these girls, since I've been home, they haven't left. So we're doing good. Thanks, Ash.
So everybody, Rhonda is referring to the fact that she quite literally within the last, 7 days, got home from Cape Town, South Africa, where she was one of the beneficiaries of the Waves for Change Wave Alliance program. And, Rhonda has been a fierce leader in preparing young Black girls to competitively surf. But she is actually, you've always sort of emphasized the idea of mental health behind everything you do. And so now with the Wave Alliance program, you've got some tools to implement. So thank you for that. I want to ask this last question, because God, the time is flying and we're running out of time. And that's, can we just stay on with you all day? How do you guys feel about that? It's late there, isn't it? It's like nighttime for you. Can you please share? Well, very quickly, we've got some questions in the Q&A, and I'm going to have these epic individuals respond to those offline because we're running out of time. But I do want to ask this question. If you could please share some lessons you've experienced in your work and would like to encourage and inspire others with. We want to take home some of your goodness.
Okay, I'm going to let you go first because I'm usually the most long-winded. So
one of the biggest things that I've learned from Waves for Change is just understanding my own mental health. And in a community, or especially in a culture where there is no conversation about mental health, speaking about mental health and introducing people to just knowing and being in touch with their own mental well-being is radical in itself. And so one of the things that have really been like highlights in terms of my journey in Waves for Change is just being aware of my own mental health, being aware of when my mental health is good, when my mental health is bad, and being able to acknowledge those moments and not see myself as either super successful or super or like a failure, but be able to understand that as much as thoughts come and go, we usually do this when we take 5, is that don't judge your thoughts as being either good or bad. And that for me has been my journey of my mental health and how I see the world, and also being able to look at other people in terms of their life experiences and having that sense of be there, be empathetic, listen, but also be very mindful of the fact that introduce and have conversations with people about their mental health, because this is something that we all have. It's just a matter of us becoming in tune with it and knowing what to do when things are not necessarily going well, and when they are going well, how do we maintain it, or how do we keep growing from there? So it's been an amazing journey of just understanding the language of mental health. And I think for everybody watching, if there's anything that I'd really encourage you all to go off from this call or go after this conference and just study more about, is just mental health, because it's something that has been stigmatized and been seen as taboo for so long, and especially if you are from Africa, because in the African culture, there's no such thing as mental health. Being depressed is seen as a sense of failure, or something spiritual is happening negatively to you, or you being bewitched, or there's a curse on you. There's no language to say, you know what, this is normal, it's okay. This doesn't mean that it's permanent and it's the end of your life, but the fact that there are communities, there are people who can support you. And I wanted just to answer when you said, if I could say a state of nirvana, I think for me, seeing the children in the ocean, especially when they understand around learning from each other, around sharing, around empathizing, that for me is nirvana, because I think at the heart and the soul of humanity, that's who we are. And if we can tap into that, then I think most of the world's problems, we could easily solve them just by looking at each other with a sense of being empathetic, and also being mindful of what's happening inside ourselves and what's happening inside of the greater world, and the fact that we're all part of this together. We're all energy, we're all flowing together like the ocean. Every drop in the ocean, every wave in the ocean is connected. It's all a big microcosmic. So I think, yeah, let's all be mindful of our mental health, and also encourage conversations about mental health with other people without judgment, without restriction, and just being open and being willing to say, okay, I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to listen.
Rhonda, advice, lessons.
My advice is to stick with the dream that you start out with. Nothing. Not one thing. I've had so many things happen to me along this journey in the last 17 years. I've been homeless. So many things that happened along the way. I'm a disabled vet. I wasn't even surfing. They told me I was never going to surf again. So along this journey, I was able to get back in the water through programs, through surf therapy programs. And I went through AMP Surf to get back in the water. So I owe everything to Dana over there. And they were so patient. And I mean, I was like addicted at one point. I was like going like every week. Like I even brought some more vets, and we all went. But what I've learned, and the biggest lesson that I've learned since I've been in this business, is to never stop. That's one of my mottos. Don't stop, no matter what. The obstacles are there. You already know. We're coming into a whole new COVID era, new presidency. We don't know what the next round is going to look like. But whatever your goal was pre all of this, pre sitting in your house, right now is the time to plan.
Yeah.
Together with what you see for yourself in the future. Take this time out, like I took time out, like with my hand healing, and then put your plan down on paper at a time. You don't have a time limit on a dream. A dream is a dream. I wanted to be a pro surfer. Who knows? I might be the 82-year-old pro surfer. Who knows? I don't know where that is. I have no idea. I'm working to get back in, get my physical all back together. But in the meantime, they say those that can't do, coach, right? So I'm coaching from the sideline right now, and it's okay. And I work on my body, because that's where you need to be. The lessons are: take care of yourself, drink water, make sure your goals are written down so that you have a pathway. A lot of us get distracted on a whole lot of stuff, personal levels and all kinds of things, but you stay on point. I have been torn down in the media. I've been torn down, so many times. I keep saying it's the 7-year itch. Every 7 years, I get torn down again. And normally it's in my own community, but I get torn down. But you don't stop. You build up like a phoenix, and you come back stronger than you were before, knowing what you did wrong or what you thought you did wrong, correct that behavior and keep going forward. For every single woman, whether you are black, white, does not matter. The day that you give up on your dream is the day you start dying. That is just a fact of life. The inside of you is going to cave in and you are not going to be okay. Do not stop. I have not stopped through sickness. You know, I have a chronic illness that keeps me down. I'm going to lose my sight, end up in the hospital, all that stuff. I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. Like I said, those who can't do, coach. You know what I mean? And you keep that mentality, because putting yourself in a place where you have part of that reality. Me not being a pro surfer, but encouraging these girls to go and be the next, you know, Carissa Moore. Who knows? The next Carissa Moore could be from the African continent. It could be Kaju for all we know. But if we stop because we're scared, then we can't move forward. And isn't that what life is all about, moving forward? Because time doesn't roll back. It only goes forward. So my only lesson is to never stop and always stay true to what your mission is. Even if people try to copy you and do whatever you're going to do, nobody is going to have the same vision as you are. And they're not going to be executing it like the way you did. I said I didn't need to be the first. I could have been the first of a whole lot of stuff, but I didn't want to. I wanted to be the best at what I do. That's what my parents told me. You can do whatever you want. I don't care what you want to be as long as you're good at it. So I made sure I'm good at this. Apparently, I'm pretty good. So I can't knock myself for my accomplishments. I used to put myself down and think, oh, these aren't really accomplishments. These are the things that need to be done. And then again, in South Africa, I'm talking to Yanni from Next Gen, and he's like, Rhonda, because he called me a legend, and I was like, I'm not a legend. And he goes, Rhonda, take this word and apply it to yourself in a positive way. Don't look at it like, you know, you didn't earn it, or you shouldn't be in this spot. You absolutely should be in this spot. And and then it took me like 2 days, because I like cried about it, because you know, you don't want to be that person. You don't want to have that, you know, that's a lot of responsibility to say, okay, you're a legend, or you're a role model. That's a lot of pressure on me as a coach. I'm not perfect. And so I wasn't accepting of the terminology. And because, like I said, I went down to Waves for Change, and I went down to talk to the people in South Africa who are the most accepting people I've ever met in my life. And you open up and you're able to articulate how you feel and what you want in a better, with a better attitude and a your
Come back.
There you are. Oh my gosh. You know, starting off the symposium with all of this energy and love was no mistake, my friends. There is so much well-deserved accolades and love in the chat for both of you. Thank you for being leaders and role models, because you are. Hear that and breathe that in as you should. Thank you for busting down the glass ceiling. Women and BIPOC, all of us can continue to learn from the way that you two have chosen to live your life, not just in 2020, but the way that you have chosen to live your life. Rhonda and I, we're at a different age bracket than our young Aviwe here at 30, but please continue to do what you do. Don't ever stop. Do the world and the surf therapy sector a favor. Don't ever stop. Thanks so much for being with us today. We love you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Take a look at the chat, ladies. There's lots of love for you. Bye.
Bye-bye.